Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Gallagher, and I am a field consultant with the Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association. I want to welcome you back to the 2020 SPRA conference and our session, Going Digital. How can your park or recreation property monetize opportunities in the virtual world? I hope you enjoyed the amazing keynote and sessions thus far and are ready for more great information. Our commercial members offer products and services specific to the recreation, parks, and fitness industries. I would like to recognize and thank our commercial members, including Blue Imp Recreational Products of Canada, Commercial Pool and Recreational Products, and Prairie Grave Care. A full list of our commercial members, the products they offer, and their contact information is available on our website. Our commercial members support our industry, and I encourage our members to take a look at the many innovative and cutting edge products and services they have to offer. How to participate. On your control panel, you will see a questions tab. Go to Webinar has no chat feature for attendees. There is only the questions box. Be advised that anything submitted through the questions box will only be visible to meeting organizers and not the entire group. We will try to answer as many questions as possible, but are not always able to go through them all. Be sure to submit your questions throughout the webinar to increase your chances. You're listening and using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. While you are on the webinar, you are on mute, whether you are using a computer or your phone. Today, our presenter is using polls. Remember that you must be in full screen mode to participate. On the top of the control panel, click the View menu button and select the full screen option. Just a reminder that we will not be using the raise hand feature. SPRA will not provide recordings of the SPRA conference keynote or sessions. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Brent Barutis. In the past 30 plus years, Brent has worked directly or indirectly with many large, medium, and small sport parks and recreation facilities and organizations, as well as Canadian brands, corporations, and businesses to develop audit, enhance, design, and build effective sponsorship marketing and revenue programs. Welcome, Brent.
Thanks.
And I'm just going to turn control over to you, Brent.
Terrific. There we go. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for the opportunity to be here today with everybody and be part of this session at the conference. And this is probably the first virtual conference that the SPRA has done. And this may not be the last. We're seeing a lot of organizations shift into this digital world because they have to right now, but a lot of them that are saying this may be the new norm. And so I'm excited to be able to come today and be part of this and talk to you about how your park or your recreational property can monetize those opportunities in this virtual world, because it is different. So first of all, that's my name. I'm Brett Barutis. I'm with a company called the Partnership Group Sponsorship Specialists, and we are a sponsorship consulting firm. We work with, as Dan said in my bio, we work with organizations like yourselves, your individual organizations, whether they're private, whether they're municipality, whether they're provincial in scope. Anybody that sells sponsorship, we help them to figure out what exactly they have to sell, what those assets are worth, and then how do they take them to market and monetize them? How do they make money? And that's what I'm going to look at today, is how can you make money in this new digital and virtual world, and compared to what we were used to with a sign on a pathway or a rink board inside an arena. So they'll provide you with, and this will be shared afterwards. You can take it off of here, or the team at the Field Consultants Group, and we'll make sure that this goes out to everybody in a PDF later today or in the next couple of days. But so you'll have all my contact information. I encourage you, if you have questions that don't get answered today, or something pops in your head tomorrow or next week or whatever, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Email's the best for me. I respond within a day. I'll get back to you, and sometimes that might just say, hey, listen, I got your email, I'm swamped, I'll get back to you answering your question in the next couple of days, or I may be able to answer it, right then and there. I'm also on LinkedIn. I encourage anybody that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn. I know a lot of you already are. And then I'm also on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram, but in both of those cases, I'm posting a little bit on Twitter and post some tweets, and I do a lot of sharing. Instagram is really just a viewing, so I'm not, the reason I'm on there, to be brutally honest, is my daughter's hockey team requires that I be on Instagram, so that's why I'm there. So that would be about the end of that. So I encourage you to also today, there's about 40 of us, 45 of us on this call today on this session, but you're a lot larger group and your connections are there. I would encourage that if you hear some stuff that you want to share it throughout this session. Whether you do it on Instagram, whether you do it on Twitter, whether you do it on TikTok, well, no dancing if you're going to do it on TikTok while the session's on, but 2 hashtags that you can use are sponsorship reality, or of course the name of this year's conference, Together Towards Tomorrow. So I encourage you to share throughout this. If you're hearing something you like, if it's controversial, if it's something that you want others to know, I encourage you to be sharing that throughout. I also welcome you to, if you want to, go to our website at partnershipgroup.ca, and you're welcome to sign up free for the Tuesday morning commentary. This is a blog I produce each week. It goes out it's on our website. You can catch it down from there each week. You can pick it up off of Twitter. You can pick it up off of LinkedIn, where it gets shared. But also you can have it delivered directly into your inbox just by sending me an email or going to the website and signing up. This is and again, I know quite a few of the people that are on this call are also already getting the Tuesday morning commentary, or the TMC. And it's free. It's basically a chance to get each week some insights, some thoughts, some tips, some tricks, some trade secrets type stuff on a weekly basis to help you in dealing with sponsorship in today's COVID world, but in the non-COVID world as well. So that's a little bit about me. Now I want to know a little bit about you. So as we go through this, we can try to, I can try to customize it a little more as we go through. So the first poll, and as Dan said, we're going to have a couple of polls in here, but the first one is, I want to know if you're directly responsible for generating revenue for your organization or your property through sponsorships and fundraising. So either yes or no, are you directly responsible for generating that money?
Hello, Brent. It's Dan here again. Hi. Just while people are filling out the poll, I just want to make note that we've had some comments about the audio. Would you be willing just to check your connections to make sure there's no loose connections on your end for the audio? And I'll do the same thing on my end, and hopefully that will fix things up.
Okay, I am going to try something else here. Is that working? Can you hear? I'm looking at the audio here, and it's I'm looking at good numbers, or numbers of boxes. So what are people hearing right now?
I'm getting comments that I sound perfect. Thank you very much, everybody. Don't I always? But Still a little bit on your end, I think, a little bit, but hopefully we'll get that corrected as we go along here. So um, I
So
do
if
have, sorry, go ahead, Brent.
I was going to say, if it's still an issue in a couple more slides, please feel free to interrupt, and I will try using a different method of, what I'm connected to on my laptop here. Okay.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Um, we do have the results from the first poll here, and so I'll share those with you.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's about half, eh?
yeah, so yes, 55%, and no was 45%.
Okay, cool. That gives me a better understanding of sort of who's in the audience and what percentage of the audience is actually dedicated to being also responsible for revenue. So the second thing I want to know is what type of organization do you work for? Is it a recreational facility like a rink or aquatic center or indoor facility? Or do you work in programming? Or do you work in outdoor recreation like sports and athletic facilities that are outdoors? Or are you on the parks and trails side of it? So I know you might be in more than one of those, but just pick one of them and that'll give me a good idea.
Okay, Brent, we got the second poll up, and while people look at that and answer that poll, would it be possible for you to swap for a different microphone?
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, we'll give you a moment there, and while people fill out that poll, hopefully we can address that issue.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Dan?
Yes, that sounds a little bit better. Can you say just one more thing just to make sure?
How about I talk about my life story? I was born at a very early age. I was born in a hospital because I wanted to be close to my mother at the time. So it looks like our group is pretty much a quarter of them, or almost half of them, I guess, are in the recreational facility side, and about half in programming. They're just a little less than half, and then there's some that are on the outdoor side and the park side. So I'm going to make the presumption here that really what we've got is a group of people that are working in programming and working inside rinks, aquatic centers, and those types of recreational facilities, and that about half of you are dedicated to generating revenue, and the other half, it's not a primary component of it all. But I think really what I did learn is it's pretty accurate that most of you are probably doing more than one thing, and you're stretched pretty thin with having to have do several things within your organizations. I didn't think I would need a poll for that one. So is our sound sounding okay now, Dan? Is that a little better?
Yes, I believe that is much better than before. So you're good to go. Thank you very much, Brent.
Okay, thanks everybody. So where I want to go is here's then the session plan. We're going to take a look at how this new virtual world of fundraising and sponsorship truly works. I've integrated some case studies into the session, and then we'll have questions and answers at the end. So what's important to understand is, and I don't think this is news to anybody, but we have, we really are in a different game. Things have changed dramatically in the last 10 months. Your parks and your trails, in April and May, and your facilities, they were next to empty, if not empty. And now you're trying to manage them operationally to make sure not too many people are in them, that there's quotas, that there's all of those sorts of things. We also notice that people's attitudes have changed. You've got lots of people that want to follow the rules, others that don't, people that, are angry and mean because of situations. Those things have all changed. We've got cancellations. We've been doing things like yoga classes online and all of those sorts of things. So the world has changed dramatically for us. And you wanted to look at it from a perspective, if you were running programming sessions, Taekwondo or whatever, and you were running them inside your facility, along comes COVID, and you're no longer running them in the facility, you're offering them for the first little while for free because you want to still be able to provide a service as the organization. And then now, how do you monetize this? Because they used to charge those people to come in and come to your Taekwondo or your yoga class or your spin class. And then you did it for free and now you're not. So how do you manage that? And how do you manage the situation that nobody was in your building for 3 months and somebody had their name on the building? And how are you going to make good to them on that? And the fact that your building's only 25% full now, it's being used, but it's only 25 or 50% full, and they're not getting the same number of people through the building. So all of those things, we truly understand that it's different today, and a lot has changed. So what I've built out for you today is I've built what are called 12, I've created as the 12 steps to a successful monetization of sponsorship and fundraising in the digital world for you guys. So I'm going to quickly run through those 12 by name or by description. And then I'm going to, from there, I'm going to go into each one of them individually and more detail. But the first one is, you know what? We have to come to that understanding that things are different. And what you've done in the past is no longer acceptable. It's unacceptable. So just because you used to hang up a banner, that doesn't work anymore. How can you generate revenue and monetize this digital world? Number two is, for some reason, my screen's not. There we go. It's important to understand the difference between fundraising and sponsorship marketing because they are different. Number three is understanding that virtual, social, digital world are critical to us both short term right now, but they will be, like I said earlier, they will be long term, and you need to be able to be successful long term. Number four, you need to know what you have to sell and what it is worth. So you need to know what your saleable assets are and how they're different now and today versus what they were in February or January of 2020. Number five, you need to understand your partners, your donors, your sponsors in way more intimate details than you ever have before. You need to truly understand them more in depth if you want to be successful. You'll need to shift from transactional deals to holistic relationships. You're now climbing into bed together and need to adapt to make these things work. Number seven, undertaking what we call discovery sessions with prospects versus pitching of packages, and that'll be essential for success. Number eight, that there'll be a shift from stock packages, something that the same package that everybody gets, to customized, meaning every one of your partners are getting a unique program because digital video might work for them where somebody else doesn't want video. They just want digital and tied in with social. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. So we need to customize. And number nine, there's a need for the creation of an environment of safety, security, and sanitation. That is critical as we move into the next phases of operations and sponsorship. And that element of safety, that element of security and sanitation is huge, absolutely huge from a sponsorship perspective. We'll get into that. Number 10, you need to understand that communication is absolutely essential. Number 11, so is storytelling. And finally, number 12, stewardship and fulfillment will be the test of long-term success. So those are the 12 things we're going to look at. And I'm going to go through each one individually and be able to address a few opportunities from there. So the first thing is about understanding that things are different and what you have done in the past is unacceptable. And what that means is, you know, if you're a Zamboni driver and one other person in your area, there's only one other person in your area and it's a Monday night, you're also responsible for checking people into the building. You're also making sure that quotas aren't being overstepped. You're also making sure that you're cleaning out the dressing rooms afterwards. You've got 1,001 things to do. But now you've got to also manage all that digital that's now being used inside your facility, whether it's new LED boards, whether it is other digital channels, whether it's signage. any of those types of things, they need to be updated on a regular basis. I'll give you an example. It used to be that I was at the airport the other day and I was flying out, and the flight was delayed. And typically up on the screens, they would control those screens from back in the office to say this flight is delayed, and you're looking up at it. But the world has changed dramatically, and the security guard that or the commissionaire that's ushering people in and out on the other side of security before they go on the plane, he walked up to the screen and he pulled out his phone and he just updated that screen through his phone. So we're shifting into a digital world that's a lot different. And that means that we need to be able to shift and change in the same way with ads for sponsors. It may be that somebody wants a ad running, only up until 3 o'clock. Why? Because they're promoting a special that only runs till 3. Or they want to target something specifically to programming that's going on with inside your facility. It might be a yoga, you have yoga classes on Wednesday mornings, so they want to run on your digital screens that they want to run messaging specifically on Wednesday mornings because they are like a Lululemon type store. And that's the only audience they want to be reaching. And they want to run them. And when yoga's over at 11:30, they don't want to be running. So you need to switch out their commercials and put in their videos and put in somebody else's or whatever the messaging is. So just because we did things a certain way before, we need to understand that that won't work in the new world, that we have to be more flexible. We have to be more adaptable. This is a new norm. I mean, when we look at things like the fundraising events that used to exist, like the CIBC Run for the Cure, the MS Walk, the MS Bike, those were things that were organized, and they shut down city streets, and they had these runs, and they went through the city, and they did this and they did that, and you'd see the bikes going on long-term rides. Well, it didn't happen this year, and it might not happen in the future. But what those organizations did from a fundraising perspective, most of them raised more money, but they did it and they became adaptable. That's what we need to understand when we start to look at the fact that the way we've done things in the past isn't going to work in the future. And so what was a walk for the Run for the Cure for breast cancer, it shifted into, we want you in the month of October to go out and walk. You can walk wherever you want, walk 10 kilometers over 10 days. You can walk or run 10 kilometers over 10 days. You can do whatever you want, but log it down, log it online, show the people that have pledged to you what you've done today. And that gets people more engaged, and they're getting larger numbers, and their costs were lower. So these are the things that we have to understand, that the changes have been dramatic. And when we start to look inside our facilities, we've got less people in them. It'll take a while before we get to those full capacities. What are we doing with those groups? Are we still running both live in-class Taekwondo and online? And if we're running it online, is there a messaging opportunity? As I mentioned earlier, my daughter plays on a hockey team. She's a goalie. She's playing U18 right now. Well, they're not actually playing right now because we're on Vancouver Island and they just closed everything down sports-wise. But the reality is that none of us can get in arenas here to see our kids play, but everything's being live streamed. So inside your arenas, do you have the broadband and the bandwidth to be able to do live streaming out of there, and a signal strong enough so that parents can sit in their cars in the parking lot and watch their kid play at a hockey game through live streaming, whether it's through Facebook, whether it's through whatever. So, but furthermore, why aren't you live streaming these things? Why aren't you putting in facility to be able to live stream it, control the advertising, and then you produce it to all of these other teams that are coming into your building? And you don't be able to, instead of them producing it, you produce it, you give them the access, and there's always there's commercial messages in there, and there's overlays at the bottom of every screen. That's a huge revenue generator for you. So there's opportunities like that. We have to think differently. I love the 7 most expensive words in business. We have always done it that way. And this is where I think if you can't, you're not going to take everything away in these 12 sessions or 12 steps. You're not going to be able to put every one of them into practice. You're not going to put every one of them into practice, immediately at least. And you're also going to end up, there's certain ones that you're going to take away. But if you can remember that we've always done it that way, is the most expensive 7 words in the English language, will help you to overcome this situation of not really understanding that you do need to change and be adaptable. So the fact that when we look at it, all those logos in the ice in your arenas, nobody's in your arenas. People aren't there. So the value that Napa's getting or Home Depot's getting or Mr. Lube are getting is a 10% or at max 50% of what the value you originally sold it for. So how can you actually generate that additional money back? How can you provide value to them so that you can continue to receive the full pop of money? And that might be ensuring that there is live streaming available that you're controlling and you own the messaging that's on that live streaming. So there's a example that I was going to give you. This is a video. I haven't been able to get it to go from my end. So what I've done is I provided the link to the team at Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association. And after the session is over, there's a video, this video, and a second video, and they'll share those links with you so that you can go look at them then. But what you would have seen in this video is how Honda, who is a sponsor of Little League World Series in the United States, what they did to actually beef up their sponsorship from an integration and activation perspective. And they created something called Camp Honda, which got people integrated and excited. Well, the stuff that you're going to see in that video isn't going to happen for the next couple of years because of COVID. It's very interactive, touching, holding people, people falling in dunk tanks, things like that. It's not going to work, just not going to exist. There's the safety and the security and the sanitation issues. But they got creative to do what they did. And that's what we need to do again, is get creative and start thinking differently. Got another quick poll here. What I want to know is, what type of fundraising have you done in the past? Has it typically been just out selling packages for your galas, for your dinners? Is it asking strictly for donations versus sponsorship? Is it specifically with sport and recreation events? Or is it collecting silent auction items? Or is it selling rink boards and advertising? And you can pick, I think we agreed on this one, you could pick all of them. You'll soon find out if it says you can only pick one. But let's give it a try there, Dan.
Okay, Brent, we got the poll up. So again, people just go ahead and answer that poll. What type of fundraising have you done in the past? And we'll leave that up for a little bit and have everyone respond, and I can share the results with you right away. Just giving people a few more seconds or so. Okay, so we got the results here, Brent. I don't know if you can see them or not.
This one's too small for me.
Okay. So selling rink boards and advertising came at 33%.
Okay.
Specifically with sport and recreation events was at 36%. Asking strictly for donations versus sponsorship and collecting silent auction items was 11% each.
Okay.
And selling packages for galas and dinners was 8%.
Okay, so it sounds like the majority, the 33 and 37%, basically comes down to 2/3 of you are working in sport and rec inside facilities, and you are actually selling things like the advertising and the rink boards, those sorts of things, sport related, as opposed to really philanthropic type, please help us to help the kids sort of thing. Okay, so that helps me. So thanks very much, everybody, on that poll. I'm just going to close this down a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so this comes to number 2, the second step of the 12. And it's important to understand that the difference between that fundraising side and the sponsorship marketing side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and define this and getting you to understand that on the fundraising side, it's really about, hey, please help us to make sure that we can provide, whether it's parks, whether it is programming, whether it is facilities, please give us some money so we can actually do some of this and have an enhanced program running, those sorts of things. Or if you're building a new park, or you're building a new playground, or you're building something like that, that you might want to go out and quote unquote fundraise, and you create a walkway with a bunch of bricks and people give you $150 for their name on a brick. That's fundraising. That's all about them helping you as an organization to do good in our communities, to make sure that they're healthy, that there's a place for kids to play, there's a place for adults to play. And that's all about, that's what the fundraising side is all about them helping you to help our community. The opposite of that, or the other side of that, is sponsorship. And sponsorship is a B2B, or a business to business transaction, or format. And it's where you go to them to say, I'm here to help you. So if you rap on the door of the local Subway, you rap on the door of the local community co-op, or you rap on the door of the local MNP accounting office, or you rap on the door for Blue Imp or whoever it is, when you go to them and say, please help us to build this park, or help us to run some enhanced programming in our facility so our community feels good and has access to this, that's you asking them for help. That is fundraising, donations and fundraising. But if you go to them and say, hey, I believe that a lot of the people that come into our building shop for groceries, because in this building we have the Mom and Tot Swim, and specifically in this aquatic area, the Mom and Tot Swim. So we know that in the mornings every week, we have a lot of moms with young kids. So the end result is, and even when they're 5 years and 7 years old, mom is still sitting in the windowed area while their kid is in the pool. So when that happens, and you're talking to the co-op, you want to talk to the co-op about how you can help them. Don't ask them for money to help you run a swimming program. Tell them that you have the opportunity to get more moms to shop at co-op. All they have to do is buy a sponsorship from you. It's no different than them buying the local radio station, them buying the Leader Post or the Star Phoenix, or them buying Rolco or Harvard Broadcasting spots. I don't care what it is. They're all forms of marketing, and sponsorship's just another one. But if I'm targeting women with young children because I'm Shoppers Drug Mart, well, guess what? One of the great places to do that is in a Mom and Tot Swim program. So then I would probably have a way better chance of generating revenue, and especially in the new digital world where there's TV screens possibly in the locker rooms to be able to remind moms that, hey, don't forget, Pampers produces a toddler swim trunk, and that will, it's available at Shoppers Drug Mart. So that reminds them of those sorts of things, at last point of opportunity before they leave the building, those sorts of things. So it's about also emailing them, sharing on the Twitter campaign, sharing on an Instagram campaign for your sponsors, but reaching out to those people in an environment where it enhances their experience instead of just messaging them with advertising. So that's the key. Sponsorship helps that business make more money. Fundraising of donations and gifts helps you, and they really gain nothing. So, okay. So the third step is understanding that virtual, social, and digital are all critical to both the short and long-term success. We need to understand, and it's not going to be news when I tell you that that social and digital isn't just a band-aid. It's about how we're going to shift in the future. This format, for sure, isn't just going to be essential right now and for the next 12 months or 18 months, but probably right through to we're going to be an environment of wearing masks. We're going to be an environment of lower numbers. We're going to be in an environment of sanitization at a very high level and a security and safety situation at a very high level till 2023. When we look beyond that, we start to look, I mean, even at this is travel, this is outside your local units, but start to look at it, the airline industry doesn't expect to return to 2019 numbers until 2026. So we need to understand this is going to be a slow process of return. And so that means that we need to get to the point that those parents aren't all going to be allowed in the arena to watch the hockey or the lacrosse. You know, they've got to space themselves at the soccer pitch. When they go to the ball diamonds, they need to be, spaced again. You might have bleachers, but they can't sit next to each other unless they're in their own bubble. That isn't going to disappear before the next season. So we have to start to look at that. How can we start to update those parents? How can we provide through our organizations, through our facilities, updates through Twitter, through other social handles to be able to let them know that the building's now full, those sorts of things. Find a tracking system and have that all integrated with sponsors. Sponsors are making that happen. And as the sponsor makes that happen, that's where the benefit comes to them. If I can sit in my car and watch my kid play soccer because I can't stand on the sidelines because it's full, or I can't get in the building for box lacrosse, guess what? I'm grateful to Subway, who's sponsoring this, or Blue Imp, who's sponsoring this, and making it possible for me to sit in my car and watch them play. So those are the types of things that we want to be looking at. Everything that we can do, we can monetize. You take a look, we're doing some work with a municipality in Alberta right now. And what they're working on is taking things to digitizing and to a virtual scenario. And this wasn't pushed on by COVID, okay? So it's an outdoor park area, and it's a large park, it's integrated, and it has a pathway through it that connects several parks, that sort of stuff. There's also a lot of historical and cultural information around this area. So if I was to compare it, I'm just going to use it, this is for me for a comparison perspective, and I'm doing an outdoor scenario, but and I know it's not specifically a municipality's property, but it's, let's take Wascana Park in Regina, because most people know what it is. I mean, there's a lot of history about how the lake was originally built, the history of, a bridge. It's the largest bridge over the shortest span of water anywhere in the world. The big dig in 2003 and 2004. There's also quite often pop-up stations of candy and ice cream in the summertime along the walkway in the Wascana Park. There's things that are going on at the band pavilion. What if there was an opportunity to actually be fully wired in the whole Wascana Park, or within a building in a recreation center. And that pretty much exists already. But it ensures that there's free internet access. And I'm going to use Rogers because I know most people are using SaskTel, but I'm just going to use Rogers as this example. So if it was Rogers and they want to sponsor this, and they want to sponsor this park area, and they want to make it more user friendly. So what if, as I'm walking through, I get pinged and then it says, hey, right now you're walking across the Albert Street Bridge. Did you know that there's history here? Click here to learn more. So you click through and you find out that it is the longest bridge, or the longest bridge over the shortest span of water anywhere in the world. And then you find out that you can access other information. The cultural department in the municipality can provide all the content. It can be integrated in. Now you've got a digital campaign inside that also says, hey, did you know that at the band shell later today, the boys choir is going to be performing, and it's brought to you by Blue Imp, or it's brought to you by Commercial Pools, or it's about a history that's being told and it's brought to you by, and it's made possible by, and there might be video messages in there too. But the whole idea being the digital world is taking us to places we never thought we would go. The quote unquote old fashioned way is, let's write a plaque out with 1,000 words engraved on a brass plaque and put it on the wall next to the band shell, and somebody can read the history. Nobody's reading that history today. But if it's available online for them, it makes a big, big difference. So you need to go virtual go-to opportunities. And we can do that inside buildings. We can do that inside facilities. The world has changed dramatically. And the next video that I was going to show you really exemplifies the impact of social media in our lives. Things like there are more people that own a cell phone in the world than there are people that own a toothbrush. I mean, those are the types of impacts that we have to look at. That something like 83% of people believe a post by somebody or a rating by somebody on a product, where only 17% or 14% or something trust an advertisement. So how are we going to utilize to make sure that our partners and our sponsors are being integrated into our digital and social media to understand this even further? So this next video, which will come in the links afterwards, will allow you to take a look at that. Oh, you can't hear that though. Could you hear that? Dan, did you hear that?
Brent,
Yep.
no, we could not hear it.
Okay, sorry, it came up for me, so I just thought that I better check, right? Okay, so you'll be able to see that afterwards. Okay, I've got another quick poll here. What I want to know is, prior to COVID, did you or your facility or your park organization, whatever, have a full asset list? Like, did you have a list of all the stuff that you could potentially sell? Just quick answer, yes or no.
Okay, Brent, we have that poll up right now. I did get a question here in the question
Sure.
box. Would you want to take it now or at the end?
I can take it now, depending on what it is. I may defer it, but how about you read it to me?
Sure. So you talk about some interesting uses of digital technology. Do you know the cost of some of this technology or some of the companies that might provide some of these services?
Sure. Really great question. So there's a company, well, let's just take the last example that I used about creating that net concept of Wascana Park being fully Wi-Fi accessible with a whole bunch of historical data integrated into it, and pop-ups of, that did you know that there's an ice cream stand right now across from Willow Island? That type of stuff, right? So in the case that we're looking at for this municipality in Alberta, that they are through their park side looking at, is with a telecommunications company, obviously. And I'm going to use Rogers. It's not Rogers, though. So in this case, Rogers would be paying a fee. And in this case, that fee will probably be with a fully integrated sponsorship program. It'll probably be a little over $1 million a year. It'll probably be for 20, 25 years. So it's about 25 years, $25 million. It would also be up to part of the responsibility of that would be for Rogers to be providing that net service, that Wi-Fi service, and the integration that goes with it. The content that would have to be uploaded would be provided by the municipality, in this case, the Parks and Rec department and the cultural department of that municipality. And then on top of that, there would be a fee, and I'm not sure what that would be, but just to get it all uploaded and everything. And quite often, a municipality's in-house tech team can do that, or they'd outsource it to who's ever managing their website anyway. So that's on that end of it. When I look at a lot of facilities, arenas, they might have 1 or 2 screens in them, like TV screens. They're probably using them for listings of who's in what dressing room, integrated with a messaging every 15 seconds or whatever. It's one thing to go out and buy all those TVs, run the integrated system. I know that, and I know they're familiar in Western Canada, a company called Rec Media. Rec can probably integrate all that stuff for you and put in the hardware and manage it for you as well. So there's those things. And if they can't, there is a company, and I just can't think of their name of it. They're based out of Markham, Ontario. They work nationally though. And they will come into your facility and they will put in all the hardware. They will manage all the programming that you want on those LED screens. They will sell all the marketing and sponsorships integrated into it. They can allot a certain percentage of that to you as an organization. And then on top of that, they pay you a fee. They pay you a percentage of all the revenue. So there's a few ways to do this way more economically than you would ever believe. So do you have those polls? I missed looking at it because I was talking.
Yes, we did get the polls back, and thanks for taking the time to answer that question, Brent. So we did get the poll back. So the question was, prior to COVID, did you, your facility, park, organization, municipality, etc., have a full asset inventory list? And 42% said yes, 58% said no.
Okay, cool. So about half have an integrated list. And in any facility, if I'm looking at I'm just going to use like a Schmerler Center in Regina or Shaw Center up in Saskatoon or in Melville, you take a look at the Horizon Credit Union Center. Most of those facilities, some of them larger, some of them smaller, those would all be, you should have, 200, 300, 400 items on that list. So that's great to know that about half of you have a good comprehensive list like that and half don't, because this next, okay, how come I'm not, this next slide that I want to talk about, or the next step that we're going to talk about, is you need to actually have that list of what do you have to sell? What are all the things? So that would include all the traditional stuff. You can put a logo in the bottom of the pool. You can put a logo in the bottom of each of the lanes in your lane pool. You can have that gives somebody the right to set up a kiosk in your lobby. You have the right to be able to sell somebody a logo at center ice. But you also have the right to create all that digital inventory and sell all of that too. And that includes 15-second video commercials, static commercial messaging. And the real key to this is being able to bundle all of this. And then you start to look at it, if you're running live streaming out of your building, and again, coming back to that earlier question, there's live streaming agencies that'll do some of that for you. Again, they might sell the advertising in it and you get a percentage of it. But again, you're providing a service and you're getting some value and some revenue out of it. So there's a bunch of angles to do that. So, but you need to start looking at that and making sure that you have that inventory, you have that valuation, because that's the second half of that. It's one thing to have a list of all the things you could sell. It's another thing to know what it's truly worth in the marketplace. And you need to be able to ensure that you actually have that valuation done, whether you do it yourself with industry accepted standards and processes, which are accessible in the marketplace, um, or alternatively, you outsource it to a third party, a company like ourselves or any of our competitors that actually can go in and do all that valuation for you. Because once you have everything valued, you will know that you have with inside your facility, you have the opportunity to be generating 20,000 a year, 200,000 a year, or 20,000 a year in sponsorship marketing revenue. And that's the critical thing, because if you just pull a number out of a hat and say, I'm going to give them a rink board, I'm going to give them this digital, I'm going to tweet about them on a regular basis, and we're going to have them included in our live streaming. And I think that because they're Connexus and they got lots of money, I'm going to ask them for 20,000 a year. And then I'm going to give the same stuff to Joe's Pizza down the street, and he's not quite as wealthy, so I'll sell it to them for 10,000. Well, that doesn't work. There's a value to it, just like a manufacturer suggested retail price sticker on the car in the parking lot. Guess what? There's a value that's accepted in the marketplace for that. And you need to know what those values are. So number 5, you need to start to understand your donors and your partners and your sponsors in greater and more intimate detail. And this is going to be huge going forward. This is a big shift. What we found was as COVID set in April, and sponsors started to lose all the visibility that they were getting, and organizations and facilities weren't doing anything from a digital side or a virtual side to help their sponsors, that became a big issue. And then all of a sudden sponsors weren't renewing, or they were saying, okay, we gave you $10,000 for our sponsorship this year. We've missed half of it. We want $5,000 back. Now all of a sudden you're forking out money, cash flow that you don't have. On the other side, they may say, what are you going to do to make up for this? And I was just talking with one organization that's a municipality that has several facilities in Ontario, and they've about 90% of their partners they've been able to maintain. They haven't lost revenue on them. But what they have done is extended their contracts by 1 year with no additional cost. So that would be this year, 2020. They've already paid for this year, but if their contract was to end at the end of 2022, it's now ending at the end of 2023. But they paid for this year. They just don't have to pay for that very last year. They're going to get it for quote unquote free. But that's the sort of thing that you need to start to look at. But you also have to know that businesses have changed. The way they're doing business has changed. So it used to be that they wanted to drive traffic to their restaurant. Well, they don't want to drive traffic to their restaurant anymore. They want to drive traffic to their restaurant's website for takeout, for pickup, for delivery. Or maybe they're a retail operation, and maybe they've shut all their bricks and mortar stores. They want to be driving traffic to the web. And what better way to be driving traffic to the web is off of your own facility's website? And being able to, when people are checking your website to find out what if yoga class is happening and whether it's available virtually as well as on site, and how many people are in the room, and it's already full, so I'm going to have to go virtual. Well, what are those opportunities now to be able to overlay on that virtual session messaging that says, hey, be sure to check out Lululemon for great savings right now. So you can start to look at those types of things, but you can't offer those up out of your inventory unless you know what that sponsor needs to achieve. What are their goals? And this is what we've seen by the best organizations through COVID. They've spent more time with their partners, understanding their partners' woes and issues and great opportunities, because some of them are thriving through COVID. Let's face it. There's lots that are hurting, but there's lots that are making big dollars through COVID. So when we have to stop and look at that, we have to look at how we can help them based on this new world. And digital and virtual are going to be huge. So we have to start looking at it. And, I mean, if your organization has got a lot of money over the years from service clubs, like the Rotaries and the Kinsmen and the Kiwanis and the Optimist, and if they're continuing to want to help in the community, how could you help them? I would bet if you sat down and talked to them, you'd find out that 90% of those organizations, their number one pain point is dwindling memberships, because they're basically old white guys like me. That's who's in those clubs. And we don't understand how to market, supposedly, most of the people in those clubs, to market to a 25 to 39-year-old. But social and digital is the way to go. And you in your facility own social and digital. And those are the parents of the kids that are inside your facility. So how can you tell the story about what Optimist has done in your community over the last 50 years and how they too can make a difference in their community? Why not come out to an Optimist meeting and learn more? Those types of things. And that's storytelling that you can tell through a digital message on a screen, or whether it's on a Facebook post, or whether it's on your website and it's a video. There's a whole bunch of options there. But you can't do that unless you understand that organization and their situation. And the only way you do that is if you're doing way, way more understanding of their situation, going deep into their details of their operation. So the next step, number 6, is you need to shift from what we call transactional deals into holistic or whole organizational relationships. Because what we used to do was take them a package and sell them a rink board. And that's advertising. It's not really sponsorship. But now you can go to them and say, we still have people coming in the arena. The rink board you told me is still important to you, because you like to want the kids to see it, because you're Chuck E. Cheese restaurant or whoever. So you still want the rink board. But you've told me that your business, you're trying to promote your takeout business. Well, one of the things that we can do is we can ping everybody that is, within our parking lot area, or we can ping everybody that has that's watching this on a live stream, reminding them that they can, come to Chuck E. Cheese right after this game and have a great meal and some fun. So those are the types of quick direct messaging that can be done. So you have the rink board, you're on our live streaming, and you're inside our dressing room with coupons being handed out, or digital that it's a QR code that each of those kids can actually just take a photograph of and bring into the restaurant, and they'll get 20% off. Or you can even go to a step further, and this would cost money, but you can go to things like augmented reality and create there's a great company out of Vancouver, I just can't think of their name either, but they have built augmented reality programs for facilities and sport organizations. So you might take your facility, and let's call it the Saftel Place up in Saskatoon, or again using the Horizon Credit Union Center in Melville. And we take that, we turn around and we say, great, we want you to go to, because our partner is Co-op, and our partner, we want you to go to Co-op Gas, we want you to go to the Co-op grocery store, we want you to go to the Co-op gas bar, as well as the main service station. We want you to do all these things, Co-op building. And whenever you go there, it's almost like a scavenger hunt. We want you to take a picture with the Horizon Credit Union Center logo, augmented reality logo in the back. And when you've done that, and you enter those in, you're entered to win prizing from Co-op and for free ice time at the Horizon Credit Union Center and an RESP starting program or whatever. So you're creating all of these things, but this is what you can't do that with just selling them a rink board. You want to sell them a program that will enhance their success. So that takes us to number 7. And the only way that you can actually get all of this type of information, the only way that you can really dig in is by having what we call discovery sessions. This doesn't mean going to their website, looking at their website, building them a package and presenting it. It means either Zooming with them or doing a coffee face-to-face with them and understanding how their business is operating. What are their struggles right now? What's the time? What are they doing digitally? How is it working? How can we help you digitally? Those sorts of things. And then you can actually understand through that discovery session what they're trying to achieve. And that will allow you to custom build proposals. I want to give you a quote. This is from Wendy McDowell, the Chief Development Officer at the YMCA in Greater Toronto. And she said that, and this is where we have to have the shift in the thought that I mentioned before about the 7 most expensive words in the English language or in business are, we've always done it that way. But what she said was, long held sacred beliefs and practices in organizations can often get in the way of innovation and creativity. The pandemic, for the most part, has changed that. And that's what we have to understand. The things that you're doing today because of COVID to run your operations, to run programming virtually versus on site, to be able to do updates, to be able to have broadband width, to be able to do live streaming of things that are going on inside your building so that for parents that can't come inside and see it. All these things have changed our worlds dramatically. Now we need to leverage all of those same things and integrate our sponsors into them. And we can do that by doing more discovery sessions. And that's part of the change. We need to go and talk to them and listen to them and learn from them. And here's a stat for you that basically 88% of executive buyers want a conversation and not a presentation. So stop giving them packages. Stop giving them a proposal until you know what they need to achieve. I compare it often to a medical scenario. If you go to the doctor, like your job as a facility is to be a doctor and the sponsor is the patient, and you're going to make a house call and you're going to go down to the co-op and you're going to sit with the general manager and you're going to find out what's hurting, what's ailments they have. And that scenario is let them talk and tell you where they hurt. And you as a doctor can prescribe the prescription for taking away that pain. And that might be a fully integrated sponsorship package that helps them to drive more traffic into their stores in late evenings, because that's when it's really slow and there's lots of room and lots of spacing, versus the 4 to 6 p.m. when people are getting really annoyed because they have such long lineups and they have social distancing to take into consideration, and the people going up the wrong way on an aisle in the co-op store and all of these sorts of things. So when we stop to look at that, you're the doctor, and the more pain you can take away, the more money they're going to give you. But you can't take away the pain unless they tell you where it hurts. And you can't find out that information unless you make a house call, unless you go and talk to them and discover what it is that you need to get from them to help them. So number 8, based on all of this, we have an inventory, we know what the assets are worth, we've done our discovery sessions, we know where they hurt, we know what they've been doing with digital and other places. We can now custom build a program that meets their needs, because what the local co-op needs and what the local accountant needs in exposure and the audiences they're trying to reach are completely different. So that's why we have to shift from this gold, silver, and bronze package world, even with all these new digital assets that we've got, and we need to customize. Number 9, there needs to be for the creation of an environment of safety, security, and sanitation. You need to be able to get to the point where people are coming in your building and feeling really secure. What we're seeing in the marketplace is sponsors do not want to sponsor a mom and pop swim. They don't want to sponsor the after school basketball league, they don't want to sponsor your building. They're going to take their name off of it until they're truly convinced that what you're doing inside is safe and secure. Because there is nothing worse than having, I'm just trying to think of a building. Uh, let's just take it Brant Center in Regina in Everest Park. So there's nothing worse than Brant Center and there being a hockey game there, and a team came in from Manitoba, that awful Manitoba, and they came in and our team got COVID. And everybody, all the headlines in the newspaper, Brant Center full of COVID, COVID outbreak at Brant Center. Not really what I want to be paying thousands of dollars a year for, to have my corporate name related to a outbreak of the pandemic in a building that's named after me. And I'm paying to have my name on that building. So that, or a Mom and Tot Swim, the Pampers Mom and Tot Swim, or the Shoppers Drug Mart Mom and Tot Swim has an outbreak of COVID. You know what? Sponsors are being very careful on what they align their dollars with, because they do not want to be the organization that's related or affiliated to an outbreak. So you not only have to do due diligence to make sure that your building, your facility, your programming is safe, is secure, and fully sanitized, but you have to take it to the next level. You need to make sure that the public and your partners know how clean it is and how safe it is. And that's where you need to do what we're going to talk about in a minute, which is around the communication side, and it's truly around the storytelling side, is that you need to get that message out. And you need to be telling people that when you come in to the Sandra Schmerler Center, every 12 feet, there is a sanitation station. In our locker rooms, there's sanitation stations inside each locker. Each locker automatically locks after after it's been used. And the end result is that our staff go through and all locked lockers now get sanitized in the following way. So, and they get sprayed, and this is what happens. And this is all made possible because of Blue Imp, who's a sponsor of ensuring that it's safe and sanitary inside our aquatic center, or whatever it is. These are the things that make a difference and build confidence and trust. And if they build confidence and trust in you and your audience, they build it also in the sponsor. So number 10, we need to understand that communication is essential. We've always talked about communication being essential, but I can tell you in most cases and in most markets, very seldom is communication really done well from a sponsorship perspective. But we need to listen to our partners. We need to now go by the philosophy that ABC no longer stands for always be closing. It stands for always be communicating. So when you have an outbreak inside, and let's say it's Brant Center, and Brant's going to hate me for doing this, but if Brant Center is where the outbreak is, the Brant company and the family needs to know way before the media knows. So you better brace them for it so that they can be ready for it. So those are the types of things that you have to do. You need to understand their business inside and out, and that only comes through communication. It means coming to them constantly with new and innovative ideas. We've already seen, as I just said, my daughter's plays hockey and everything was up and running, and now it's all closed down again. She doesn't have games for 2 weeks. They just got up. Their first game was scheduled for this Saturday. It isn't happening. We live in a society now that everything has changed. But when we start to look at the digitization on that, the knowledge that's being transferred so quickly, and everybody knows it's been canceled because of social and digital media. So guess what? How do we integrate those sponsors into those opportunities? Because communication has become essential. We have to not only communicate with our partners, but we need to communicate with our users. And with those users, we need to let them know that our sponsors are helping us to do the best we can for you, the user. So we need to, I like this next slide for you. It's about communication, and I'm not sure how big your screens are, but it's several pictures. This is how the customer explained what they needed. This is how the project leader understood it. This is how the engineer designed it. The next picture, how the programmer wrote it, how the sales executive, of course, described it, and how the project was documented, how the operations were installed, how the customer was billed, how the help desk supported it, and what the customer really, truly needed. So we need to be able to communicate better, especially during these times, and especially because social and digital is going to kill us if we don't communicate well. It's going to make us look like idiots. So there's nothing worse, using the branch center as the example, there's nothing worse than an outbreak happening in the branch center, and the last people to hear about it is the family and the company. And when you start to look at it, all of a sudden, they're going to be really PO'd, and they have good reason not to want to pay you. So those are the types of things of where we look at it. When we start looking at what we want to do is make sure that we show them today's stuff in real-time video. And that can go into our storytelling, and it can be real-time video of what's happening in the sanitization of the dressing rooms between groups going into the dressing rooms. These are all the things that can be done. It means digitally communicating with your partners, providing them with positioning and access digitally to your audience. So whether that be because you have databases that you're not going to sell them the database, but you can transfer content and knowledge for them. So it's about the digitized channels. It's more than just putting up a rink board or a sign in the window or a sign on a dressing room door. It's about reaching audiences and getting messages about sponsors to them. Number 11, our second last one is of the 12 steps, is to be storytelling. Gone are the days of the example I used of post a notice on a board. It's about creating a story and telling people, and digital will help you to do that, to have a video. So this has nothing to do with COVID, but it has all to do with, using digital. I live on Vancouver Island. We don't get a lot of snow here. And I think it was not this past winter, but the winter before, we had a horrible snowstorm, probably just a light drop if you're talking about Saskatchewan. But as a result of getting, 4 inches of snow, the city closes down, man. School buses aren't running, schools aren't opening, all that type of stuff. And the district supervisor, or the district head of the district, the school board district for this region, he happens to be a bit of a musician, so he wrote a song telling everybody. So he did it at like 9 at night, and he posted it on their website and sent out a link through social media, and then also sent out the link through email to all the parents. And you know how he informed them that school was closed tomorrow? In a song, him sitting there playing his guitar and singing a short song and telling them, different ideas that the kids could do. This has nothing to do with sponsors, but if that's my world, I want to write a song. I'd be saying to that head of the district school board, next time you write a song, remember that Cal Tire is our sponsor, so you should actually be integrating Cal Tire into that song of yours when you're talking about getting winter tires on. So those are the types of things that can happen. And you can create messaging and storytelling off your phone. You don't need production companies to do this anymore. So storytelling becomes critical. And the very last thing, and it's not news, it's no different today, it's no different with digital than it would have been without digital, but stewardship and fulfillment will be the test of success. And that means that if you promise that you're going to tweet about your sponsor once a day, every day of the year, you better do it, because it's all trackable. And you better make sure that if you're going to include a link to a video, and that you're also posting that video on your center's website, that it gets there and it's not buried someplace and that you're driving traffic to it. So those are the things that you need to make sure that you're actually delivering on, and you need to steward them and let them know what you're doing. And that all comes back to communication. So that's just a quick snapshot. That's your 12 steps on one page. And I will leave that to you. You can pull that out when you get it in the PDF copy. So this is really sort of hits the nail on the head, and that's sitting there and saying, what if we don't change it all and something magical just happens? Well, it isn't going to happen. There is no magic. You need to understand digital. You need to build your inventory out, including all your new digital assets, and you need to start to be able to monetize off of those. So I've got down that we've got about 15 minutes or so left, and I'd love to open the floor up to questions. And are you there, Dan?
Hello, Brent. Can you hear me?
I can, sir.
Okay, yes. So we do have a couple questions, and it sounds like we have some time to go through those. So may as well just get right into it. The first question we have for you, Brent, is can digital raise as much money as what we used to raise before COVID?
So the really quick answer to that is yes. The truthful answer to that is yes, but it will take time. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. The reality is that most sponsors are going to be skeptical. From our experience and what we watch, and if you just look at um, esports and things like that, I mean, the amount of money that's generated through sponsorship with esports, and it's all digital, is absolutely phenomenal. It blows some of the numbers, that the riders would get or anybody else way out of the water. So the digital will generate and can generate in excess of what you are presently doing, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take 3 to 5 years for you to be building out the right digital assets, to market them right, and for your partners to actually trust them and activate on them. Because it's one thing to run an ad or put a message on a live stream. It's another one to be able to track that and make sure that that ad is associated with a coupon that's being given to every kid, a virtual coupon, every kid as they're leaving the arena. How do you put those two things together? Because it's sort of like the old rink board. Rink boards really don't do anything other than build brand, and typically the best sponsorships aren't brand building, they're engaged in audience interaction. So if you can build a digital program that has a gamification component to it, wow, then you're going to really drive traffic. You're going to drive knowledge if that's what you're trying to do, is educate your audience. There's no better way than walking them through a digitized gamification program that educates them about your product and your services as a sponsor. And you're integrating that into the facility. So for example, in a place like, and this is long before COVID, but at the Credit Union Center in Summerside, PEI, one of the suggestions that we made to the credit union who wanted to be more engaged with audiences that were inside the building. And this building has 2 rinks in it. It has an aquatic center, a convention center, bowling alleys. It's a pretty phenomenal community recreation center. But they wanted, there's a lot of parents that, drop son off or daughter off to play hockey or go swimming, and then they stand there with the 5-year-old. So what are they going to do in that time? So they're integrating programs for young kids, 3 to 5-year-olds, to actually be playing on a computer screen embedded in a wall that'll teach them, financial stuff as at the age of 3 and 5, like how many apples are here and those types of things. But at the same time, there's also a download that you can when you're sitting there onto your phone or onto your laptop to be able to play games. And those games are all integrated with messaging from the credit union. So is the potential there? Absolutely. Is it going to cost? Yes. Will it reap ROI big time? It will in 3 to 5 years. You just have to make the investment.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brent. We do have another question here. What have you seen sponsors doing? Have they been bailing out? Have they been staying on board? What have they been up to?
So it's been across. What we've seen is most of the big sponsors, the nationals, whether they're financial institutions, telecommunications companies, companies that have cash flow, companies that are doing well through this scenario, yeah, they haven't bailed. They have shifted a lot of their money though. So scenarios where they may have been sponsoring a program within a rec facility, um, they may move that money and give it to the local food bank for 6 months because, or the Salvation Army or something like that, because they're moving the money to where the need is, and there's nobody in your building anyway. But for the most part, and I'm going to address this at different levels, but at the most part, the big guys, they're not bailing on anything. And this isn't 100%, but for the most part, they're not bailing on anything. They're continuing to support the sponsorships that they were doing. In our discussions with them though, because a portion of our client base is actually the brands as well, the sponsors. We help them to measure ROI, we help them to make good investments, we help them to evaluate proposals from organizations like yourselves, all that type of stuff. But in having those discussions with them, what we are seeing, and this is a pretty massive shift, and it's COVID's accelerating it. It was something that was already in the works for the last 5 to 7 years. But what we're seeing is the shift that a lot of these companies are shifting their dollars. They're going from saying, we sponsored 10 organizations each year for the last 5 years, and each of them we gave $5,000. So we were in for 50 grand. We're now going to cut our budgets a little bit down to 45, and we're only going to sponsor 3 organizations instead of 10, but they're each getting 15,000. So the 3 that they're going to sponsor are probably the 3 that delivered the best ROI when they were getting 5,000. So this comes back to why we need to be doing discovery sessions, knowing our sponsors better, understanding our partners' issues and everything else. And if you do that, you're going to be one of the 3 getting 15 instead of one of the 7 getting nothing. So that's a shift at the big guys. At the medium and small level, so the independents, the local jewelry store, in Yorkton, or the corner grocery store in Punashai, or whatever, Fort Qu'Appelle, it doesn't matter. Those guys, they are going to continue to sponsor if they can. We're seeing a lot of signs go up. Just remember, Amazon doesn't support your kid's hockey team. Amazon doesn't support your daughter's basketball team. So it's a reminder in these communities that you need to be helping those small to medium-sized businesses. And that might mean that, okay, you know what, you've had a rink board with us for the last 5 years. You said that you're going through a really tough time with COVID and you need to cancel your contract. Well, you know what, we're not going to cancel your contract, but we're going to give you the remainder of 2020 and all of 2021, and just extend your contract by 2 years, and then you're going to start paying us for the last 3 years of the contract. Those sorts of things. It's about you working with them, because most of them aren't going to walk away if they don't have to. Most of them are going to continue to be there. But if they have to walk away, you need to be able to support them in that move and help them to be able to come back to you too. So here's some stats for you though. The numbers this year are down dramatically. Surprise, because a lot of companies have shifted the big guys have shifted their monies out, and they shifted them over to the areas of need like food banks and food rescue and those sorts of things, Black Lives Matter, and Truth and Reconciliation, those sorts of things. So that has happened, but the numbers that I'm seeing and all the recommendations that I'm seeing in the marketplace is that if we look at 2021, the revenues will probably be at best 50% of what they were in 2019. So if you were generating 20,000 in 2019, you're going to be probably generating between 10 and 15. So, and that'll be dependent on how much happens in your facilities. And I know that most provinces right now, and I know Saskatchewan's one of them that's going through this, there's increasing rates. I live on Vancouver Island, as I said. We've been in isolation here as an island. It's been great up to now. But guess what? We're locking down right now. And Ontario's locking down, Alberta's locking down, and in BC, the lower mainland's locking down. When you start locking down, when Saskatchewan starts locking down, it's going to have an effect on your facilities, which is going to have an effect on your sponsors. And a lot of people, some of those predictions of 50%, some of them were higher, but those were made in August, in July, in September. And here we are in sort of the second wave right now. And this isn't going away by the end of March. So we need to understand that, yeah, you're probably going to have 50 cents on the dollar against 2019 in 2020, and maybe 75% in 2021. It'll be 2022 before you actually reach your 2019 dollars. Those are my predictions. So.
Okay, thanks, Brent. We do have one more question, and just for a quick response, I guess. What do you see 3, 6, and 12 months from now for fundraising? And I think you might have alluded to it already.
I think, so to be really quick, as I said, it's going to be way tighter. Dollars are going to be about 50 cents on the dollar going into through 2020. But that's the total numbers, okay? If you do the stuff that's in those 12 steps, you could be retaining 100% of your dollars or more. If you do the right things, because sponsors' monies are going to shift. And if other people can't do what they need, and if other people aren't being fluid and they aren't being aren't bending and aren't working hand in hand with the sponsor is going to move on. And it's those organizations that are being flexible, that are working with the partner, and it's truly about climbing in bed together for mutual success. You know, it's about a marriage rather than a transactional experience. Well, if you go that route, that marriage route, you will be retaining way more money, and you'll also be the leader in the community.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brent. That's all we have for questions from the group. So I can turn it over to you to, I think you have a couple more slides to go through.
Yeah, sure. I just have, I just gotta, every time we talk, I can't move my screen. Okay, so the last couple slides are just, this is my book. It's called Reality Check, Straight Talk About Sponsorship Marketing. It is one of the places that you can get all the valuations that I talked about earlier. Don't worry, I don't make a living off of the book. I make like $1.87 off of each book. So it's not like I'm making a living off of it, but it is, it's a step-by-step process to help you to understand how to do those discovery sessions better, how to build your inventory, how to value it. The address at the top is my publisher. Best place to buy it, always buy it direct, always buy it from the publisher. And it is typically more expensive than if you buy it on Amazon, or even if you buy it on Chapters or Indigo, but it will typically get delivered to you quicker. So that's available to you. I think through our publisher, all in, it's $50 delivered to your door. So I think the book itself is $39.95 or something like that. So, but that might be a help to some of you. And the only other thing was just to say thank you very much for letting me be a part of your virtual conference, and good luck as you move forward in this new digital and virtual world, because it is truly part of the sponsorship world. And it has been for a while, especially in pro sports. But it's something that we've all tried to stay away from in hopes that we'd never have to really get into it in our lifetime. And the reality is it's here big time, and it's here to stay. Thanks a lot, and wish everybody all the best.
Okay, thanks, Brent. That was great, some information there. And again, as part of our conference, we invite you to join us in the SPRA conference chat room to meet other delegates and chat about your sessions. The link was included in your pre-conference email and posted in the session chat. Also, if you haven't registered for our free virtual cooking class tonight, you can
That's
do
on.
so by visiting the link posted in the chat. It's going to be lots of fun. Um, Also, I'll mention that when you exit the session, an evaluation will pop up in your browser, and we appreciate your experience, and we look forward to hearing from you. Again, our conference sessions will resume again tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m., and please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
everybody.